welcome back to Voidheart Studios, and today I'm going to be reviewing another vintage blaster in another super nostalgia review. Today's vintage blaster is going to be the Nerf Stryke gear RotoTrack. The RotoTrack was released in 1997 as part of the Nerf Stryke gear series and is a chain-fed, spring-powered, slamfire-only blaster, and this thing is super cool. And it takes Nerf Mega Darts, but not these Nerf Mega Darts. No. It takes these. These are vintage Mega Darts. They are smaller in diameter than modern Mega Darts, but they are essentially the same. They're just as inaccurate, and, well, they're older, and they're rare, and some of them are probably more frail. Sorry. But let us begin with the overview. Starting up at the front, you have the chain, and it is mounted to this kind of front dolly system that spins the chain. It's the rotation mech. Above the chain is the chain shroud, which can be pulled forward to unlock and open it so you can remove the chain from the blaster. The blaster comes with a 12-round chain. I have an 8-round chain. I got a 12-round chain, but the other section of links is broken, sadly. These chains are notorious for being a little on the frail side. And since you really kind of need it to be an infinity chain for you to be able to use all the chambers, I would rather have a functioning 8-round infinity chain than a lopsided 11-round effectively regular chain. But of course, to reattach the chain, you lift up the shroud, take the chain and place it darts out onto the dolly system, and make sure you press the rim on the back in to where it will seal with the blaster. And then you take and you close down the shroud and you slide it back. Now the shroud is locked and the chain is locked in place. Down below the chain is the front grip. The front grip is meant to be held in your left hand. This blaster is meant to be operated like this, and there is no reverse configuration. It would be a bit less comfortable to operate if you were to try to flip the grip around, and I don't know if you can do it that way. I'm pretty sure you can't. But, ugh, I'm so sorry. Even though this is technically a right-handed blaster, as a lefty, this still feels comfortable for me. It's one of those specialty blasters, because I am still priming it with my right hand. And getting to that, up here is the priming and firing grip, because this blaster is slam fire only. There is no trigger. There is only slam fire. What happens is when you pull this back, the blaster will start priming, rotate the chain, and then when the priming handle reaches the rear position, the blaster will fire. And then you push the priming handle back to the front to reset it. And then you can do that pretty quickly until you are empty. And now you've got an empty chain hanging off the front of your blaster that you can just reload, or if you have more chains, then you can put that off. You do that, reload that, reload, and then you can lop off another, well, however many shots is in your chain. With how far the grip protrudes forward, you cannot just do a 4-round chain and have it wrap around like a revolver, which I've thought about doing that, but Now, with how the grip works, it would get in the way. And finally, at the back of the blaster, you have this little brace here with a Velcro strap that allows you to mount the blaster to your arm. Now, me being the adult with fat hands that I am, I can't really mount this far enough back on my arm, but I can mount it onto my arm, and it makes things a lot more awkward, unless I use it like sideways gangsta mode. But even then, it just makes things a lot more awkward trying to hold the grip, and even then I think I mounted it. Yeah, I put it too far forward. But yeah, it just makes things really awkward. And again, this was made for, you know, tiny children in the 90s, and I mean, you can kind of let go, but you can't really operate a blaster like this. I mean, it's kind of a weird system. But yeah, that's the Velcro strip. I'm going to get that off my arm before it pisses me off. And yeah, that's really all there is for the overview of the RotoTrack. This blaster is a lot smaller than I expected for, you know, I was thinking like, oh, it's a chain-fed vintage Mega Blaster. I thought it was going to be bigger. But then, well, it's also meant to be an arm-mounted secondary because it's part of the Stryke gear where everything's a mounted blaster to your body and hand, and there's a flick prime blaster and a belt-mounted blaster, and there's 2 other arm-mounted blasters in that line, and there's one that mounts to your chest and then goes up to a pair of glasses and shoots from the pair of glasses. This line is bonkers. Like, I want to get more Stryke blasters. Because these things are just stupid and ridiculous, and I love them. I love them, I love them. Yeah, let's take this thing out to the range, and hope I don't lose all my vintage Mega. Alright, we are out on the range with the RotoTrack. Let's play with it. I've got my Nitro Shot soft target out at about, I think that's 20-25 feet. Just because I'm not expecting this to fire very far with it being vintage, and I haven't really like come out to the range to really test it since I bought it. But let's play. All right. There we go. Okay. Not particularly accurate with its stock ammunition, but I've got another trick up my sleeve. You see, Ultra is a very similar diameter to old school Mega, so much so that the RotoTrack can actually take Ultra darts. That's kind of how I have to reload this beauty. But yeah, let's go a little faster with some Ultra darts before I go inside. Right. I also don't have a really good like point of aim. Oh, getting a lot of those. Inherently, this thing does not perform well when firing something it's not designed for. Let's try
try to get the last few out of there. Nope. That one's stuck. Nope. Let's see if we can refire this one. And then get that last one that's still. Nope. And then. No. Nary so much. Okay. Ultra. I am having about a 50% success rate. But then again, these Ultra Darts are kind of well used because quite frankly, the two Ultra Blasters I have and the maybe 30, 40 so Ultra Darts that I bought, about a third of those darts are thrifted. So, yeah. We'll try the half chain of Ultra again. We'll see if I can get them to properly seal enough to fire. And nope. Nope. I love it. And oh, and that one whistled. Sweet. Yeah, I could poke these out with a stick, so I'm not too worried about jamming that chain up. If you're gonna use Ultra in this thing, try to use fresh ones. Or you could just rechamber the chain. CPVC will work, and you could rechamber it for like half darts or something, or elite darts, or N series. But you might need brass for that. I don't know, with how close the diameter of N series is to the diameter of Ultra. But anyways, that'll be it for the firing demo. I shall go collect my very rare darts and Ultra, and then we'll go inside and we will blather further about this contraption.
Alright, we are back inside with the RotoTrack, and yeah, let's talk about it. So the range results were pretty decent. They were about as expected. They were not very accurate with the Vintage Mega. Somebody needs to design a chain for this, like a 3D printed chain for this that has like hinges and stuff, so that way it can take modern elite style darts. That would be not hard to do. You would just need to have this size of chamber and then just rebarrel it. Or you could just take and rebarrel this chain, but I'll talk about it later in like mod potential and stuff. But yeah, not particularly accurate with the Vintage Mega. Not particularly effective with Ultra in terms of range. But yeah, I did put this blaster up over my chronograph, and I achieved an average velocity of, from what read properly, about 65 FPS, which, I don't know. My chronograph is weird, and I may have even not had it dialed in properly for old school Mega, and sometimes it has issues with vintage blasters of not getting FPS results right because the darts, the air blast from behind the darts popped or triggered the sensor and all that. That's what was causing me so much problems with the Supermax 1500. But yeah, from what read properly, I was getting about 60-65 FPS, which, yeah, that's pretty good. I mean, the darts went a good ways. They went, you know, a solid 25, 30, 35 feet, which I don't think that's quite as much range as Modern Mega does, but Modern Mega also hits 70 to 80 FPS. So, yeah. But other than that, what's my opinion? My opinion is I really like this blaster. I love vintage gimmicks. And this thing, well, is not a prime example of vintage gimmicks. We'll get to that one when we get to it. But this was a vintage blaster that had a unique feature. And that's what was cool about vintage blasters. Because you look at the blaster market now and all of your, you know, your most effective blasters are your Caliburn and your Lynx and your Minx and your Harrier, your Rush and all that, you know, pump action magazine fed Springers. They didn't have magazines back in the 1990s. There were 2 clip-fed blasters in the Max Force line that took harmonica clips, and then there were 3 chain-fed blasters. There was this, there was the Chain Blazer, and there was the Razor Beast. That was it for high-capacity blasters. And they all took the same chain, too. There was none of this proprietary chain bullcrap that you see nowadays, where every blaster takes a different and completely unique chain. But, yeah, this was high capacity back in the day. This was, I could imagine this being an effective blaster. Slam fire, so it has high fire rate. There weren't any flywheel blasters back then. They were all Springers, and most of them were single shot pistols or, you know, 4-round revolvers or 6-round revolvers. And then you come here with a 12-round arm-mounted slam fire primary that doesn't even just have to be 12 rounds. I could order a Chain Blazer off of eBay, connect the 2 chains together because they're cross-compatible, and have a 16-round chain. I could buy more chain from another listing on eBay and just have 20 rounds, 24 rounds, 28 rounds, any multiple of 4 rounds hanging off this thing. And, well, it's debatable how much that rotation mech can take, but it seems pretty stout. And, well, there's also the debate of how much the chain will take, because this chain is notoriously brittle, especially the silver Chain Blazer chain. But, yeah, this is just a cool blaster, and I would love to run this in a war if I wasn't restricted to using Vintage Mega or Ultra, which are not particularly great ammo types, and one of them is rare as hell because it hadn't been produced in at least 30 years. Well, no, not 30 years. At least 25 years, because there were pretty much no more Vintage Mega Blasters after 2000. So, yeah. It's crazy. This was a high-capacity blaster back then. This was a primary. If there was a Nerf hobby back in the day, I don't know if there was like an organized Nerf hobby back in the 90s, but this, if there was, this would have been one of the best primaries. I could almost guarantee you. I don't know what it looks like on the inside. It's probably reverse plunger, but it's fun. It's amazing, and I'm beating a dead horse at this point, but I really like this blaster. I really, really like this thing, this creature, this red and silver and orange and black mechanical thing. I really like it. I love the RotoTrack. I'm so glad I finally got my hands on one. Yeah. That's really it for my big opinion segment, and Should I do a John Hasbro segment? Or John... What were you made by? Do you have a maker listed on here? Would it be on the inside of the shroud? Yeah, 1997. Is this Hasbro? I could have swore this thing was designed by Kenner. I didn't know Hasbro was in Nerf. Maybe they published Nerf blasters back in the 90s. But I'm pretty sure this blaster was designed by Kenner. But if I were in the shoes of John Kenner, and I were to design, and I were to be the one designing the RotoTrack, my biggest complaint with the RotoTrack is it's just a little bit uncomfortable. Because it tries to be a chain-fed primary and an arm-mounted, pardon my French, I mean, my videos are intended for, you know, older teenagers and adults anyways, but an arm-mounted oh shit button.
And now it's daylight.
But it's meant to be kind of both at the same time. Like, a primary needs to have good range of motion, but if this thing is tied down to your arm, you're not going to have good range of motion with this blaster. So, my thing is, if I were to be in the shoes of John Kenner designing RotoTrack 2.0, or not RotoTrack 2.0, but just redesigning the RotoTrack, or if I were to design a RotoTrack 2.0, I would take and I would do one of two things. I would either make it that arm-mounted oh shit button, or make it fully into the chain-fed primary. So for the first method, I would make it completely arm-mounted, remove this useless dong of a foregrip here that's just hanging down and getting in the way, and I would take it completely off and replace it with another arm mount. That way it's fully braced against my arm, and it moves with my arm. I would keep this and either put it on top of the blaster, so you could essentially do this number, or I would make it a slide prime grip, so it'd be like this. I would keep it slam fire, but I would make it a 4-round revolver. Or I would lean into the chain-fed primary roll and essentially I would Dragon Ball fusion it with the Ratchet Blast and just make it a large primary with maybe an arm brace or a stock back here. Make this double-sided so it could be used, you know, right-handed, or I guess, you know, right-handed. I guess this would technically be right-handed, so it could be used left-handed at that point. And then I would make a longer, like, shroud for the barrel, kind of like how the Razor Beast has, or, you know, it would look more like the Ratchet Blast. But I would still have the top shroud here to pop up here, and, you know, so you could get out the chain and do all that stuff, and you could, you know, reload and all that. But yeah, I would lean into one of those, because it feels like it's trying to do both and not particularly succeeding. ergonomically. That's my only ergonomic complaint about this thing. And even then, that's really just dwarfed by the fun value, because this thing is just incredibly fun. And I highly recommend you pick up a RotoTrack. If you can find one on eBay with an intact chain and intact darts, this thing cost me $50, and I got a broken chain. It's intact, but it was just broken slightly. And I got some, well, I don't want to say, well, nobody's really getting saved from this. They're not really getting saved from this verdict. Some mediocrely repaired, decapitated darts, and then I just got a pack of mint condition mega darts from eBay, so I could just have good condition vintage mega darts. But yeah. Another thing before we end the video. I got the box. That's pretty cool. I got the box too. I don't know what I'm going to do with this box. I want to hang it up somewhere. Maybe put it on the display, the $1,000 wall behind me at some point. Put it somewhere, maybe on my desk. I don't know. Part of me wants to, like, carefully and meticulously cut and unfold this box to like make it like a wall piece. Sorry, I don't know why I didn't. Oh my god! This thing gave you 3 Nerf points on Club Nerf. Oh, I need to look that up and see, because that sounds just funny. Anyway, I think I've blathered on enough. This video is probably going to be 20 minutes long for a blaster that need not a 20-minute review, because it's old and it's rare and y'all probably aren't gonna care enough to go and hunt one down. But you know what, it's a blaster I really enjoy, and that's mainly what I review on this channel anyways. So if you did enjoy this video, be sure to leave a like and subscribe and hype, or whatever all the YouTube points that you use to support a channel when you like their content is. It helps out the channel. You know this. It's completely free. You've heard it from every other YouTuber on this planet. And comment your favorite Cyberstrike gear blaster. Mine, of course, is the RotoTrack. That's why I bought it first. And I will see you all in the next one. Goodbye!